Once upon a timeline. All right, computer is not working, even though it's brand new. We'll see if we can get that straightened out. But everybody was asking about the weird chicken that was at the thumbnail of the live stream. This is what they are. They're called dong tao chicken. Supposedly, they were specifically bred to have fat legs and they're supposed to taste better. I was just looking into chickens multiple times recently, and I've never heard of these things. But they have these huge legs. They're supposed to be really expensive. Of the live stream. Some of them are just this ridiculous. Is what they are. They're called dong tao chicken. Oops. Supposedly, they were specifically bred to close that window. All right, there we go. Otherwise, you hear me talking. Okay, so here's a bunch of these things. Don't ask me how they started breeding them, but so yes, that's the first one. Hey everybody, let's see who's here. Dark Wolf's Den, Kai Lucas Zachary, Olivier Henry, Mark, Mrs. J, Carla Red Pill. that's a good one. I like that name. Clyde Ewing, Plume, Intrepid Delay, Keokuk Monty, KSB Crafter. Well, lots of people here already. Mark, let's see. Oh, and Tivijik Zix, Lord Frybread, Shark Decon Na. Welcome, everybody. It's weird seeing myself on the image there. Wow, is my screen really that bad? Jeez, let's see here. No, it's not really showing me. All right, let me see if I can figure this mess out. We should be on this one. Live control room. Up here it should tell me, okay. Stream status bad. Okay, I guess I kind of knew that. All right. Elephant Man Syndrome for chickens. Yeah, that's about it. Oh, hey, my second computer is restarting after 10 minutes. What do you know? The pictures were showing up clear before. Okay, yeah, well, the image I was seeing was super blurry on here, so, okay, you're not seeing that image, then it's fine. Okay, so anyway, yeah, the chickens, supposedly they're a delicacy, and they like the taste of them. This one's an extra creepy looking one. Let me see if I can find some more of these. I actually wasn't going to talk about it until later, but everybody was so into it, so I just went ahead and see some of these on here. I don't know. I mean, they look completely ridiculous. All right, here's the wiki. There wasn't a lot on here last I checked. Dragon chicken, Vietnamese chicken breed with enlarged feet that originates from the village Dong Tao. Valued as a delicacy in Vietnam. Difficult to breed as their large legs make hatching difficult, which makes them an expensive chicken breed. It takes 8 months to 1 year until the chickens are ready for slaughtering with 3 to 5 kilograms of weight. So there's almost no info on them, but I think I saw those in Reddit again. All right, that's them. All right, this next one I saw on Reddit, and it's really weird. All right, basically, there was that recent big earthquake in, where was that thing? It was in Indonesia. So there's a huge earthquake in Indonesia. But what's weird now is I talked about this a few live streams ago about how soil liquefaction has really changed for me. Originally, when there's an earthquake and they say that the sandy soil liquefies, it would just be like jello. So you would have increased shaking. on the housing that was above that land, a lot more than if it was rock underneath the housing. And that's all it was. And since I live in earthquake territory, you can bet that I know a few things about earthquakes, and I've researched it. So recently I noticed that they were showing houses sunk down into the sand, like half submerged due to soil liquefaction for recent earthquakes. And I thought that was really weird because I've never seen anything. Well, this takes it to a whole new level. So basically, this is an aerial view of a part of Indonesia, and this whole region is about to liquefy, and then all these structures are going to disappear. Now, this is a bit of a time lapse, I think. Basically, they have these satellite images, and they've morphed them together, one on top of the other. So it looks a little fake because, in a way, it is. It's a string of photos. It's not really a video, but as far as I can tell, this is completely real otherwise. So here is the string, and it's quite a trip. So supposedly this is the whole soil liquefying here. And now all of these houses are gone, all of this structure. So now it's just going to be on a loop. I'll let you see it one more time. It's just... This was on Reddit just a few days ago, and I thought it was fake, but as far as I can tell, it is legit. Okay, so this is what they say happens. Now, this is what I was seeing a few weeks ago with just the house sinking, but now apparently the whole house just disappears. Let's see how far. No, this one doesn't take it really far, but okay, so now we also have an image of... what it was supposedly look like from the ground. Okay, so supposedly this guy, I guess, is sitting on his house, and he's seeing this from the ground. What you're going to see is this house just skitters off. The houses are like running away because the ground, I guess, is flowing under them, and it's quite a trip. Now, unfortunately, the camera work here isn't that great, but I'm assuming he's supposedly sitting on a house that's shaking and rolling as well. And I'm not even sure how he got out of this, as you'll see at the end here. Okay, so there goes the house. It's just bailing. I mean, it's a complete trip. Those houses are still moving off to the left. And this pole here, this tower is going to also start moving. Give it a second. You can see it's just going for a walk. It's so weird because they stay sort of standing too. So it looks like there's a high wind, but that's just all the ground is moving. So the ground is really starting to boil under him now. Well, it looks like his whole house is starting to sail. Look, everything around here is sailing now. Turned off. All right, but yeah, there is, look at that, it's just become an ocean now. So that's the end of the video. I mean, assume he survived because the video is still here. But anyway, what a trip. All right, so the last one I have for this one is in Indonesian, so you can't really read it unless you speak Indonesian, but this is the area that we were seeing, supposedly. That's that same video we already saw. One other thing that was interesting was this video here. I think this is the one. Now, I believe I played this video for you guys before. This is in Japan. But what's weird is I only remember a little bit of water coming out when I first saw this video.
これビールの運転うおーうおー このビルのどっち倒れるかもってえらいことになる。そうえらいことな。怖いなこれ。うわー来た。いやだけどこう動いてるでな。横揺れ。いやいや。おー。いやいやいや。おー。吹いちゃった。うおー。吹いちゃう。うわ揺れてるここ。すごい。すごいこれ。こんなパイプが張るさいの業界現象すごいわ。知らんほうがいいよ。
I don't know what to say about that other than it's obviously changed for me anyways. Let's see what you guys are talking about. What makes the soil liquefy like that? Basically, they're saying now that that the shaking like squeezes the water that normally exists in soil out of the soil. And if the soil is kind of sandy or looser soil, then it has more water in it. And so it's basically squeezing it out like a sponge. That's the storyline now. So you saw images now of both Japan and Indonesia. But basically, they're saying any kind of soft soil, this can happen. I don't really get why it didn't happen like in say San Francisco during the San Francisco earthquake. There's a lot of landfill around here and a lot of sandy soil, but I think that we're going to start to hear more and more about it. So keep your eyes on this liquefaction thing. It's interesting because the name actually sounds a lot like what we're seeing now, a lot more than what I used to see. All right, I'm going to see if I can get my second computer to work now. It looks like it's actually going to. Only took an hour. All right. Christina Gerald finally caught a live stream. Welcome. Even the trees are moving. Yeah, they're all going to just be submerged under there. You know, when I was a kid, I mean, I grew up in California, and you can bet that I learned what I could about earthquakes. And one of the things that I learned was that you wouldn't be swallowed whole by an earthquake. They said very rarely there'd be some small cracks, but you would not like fall in, because there was a movie where there was a big crack and it was eating people alive from the earthquake, and it scared me. And then I found out it wasn't true. It can't happen. So that made me very happy. Way less, fear. I'm like, oh, as long as the house doesn't fall down, if I can run out into the middle of the field, I'll be fine. Well, that's not true in this timeline at all, as you can see. So that's one of the reasons I really know this is an ME, though, because I very much studied earthquakes. This is the big earthquake at Fukushima. Yeah, I can't remember now. Let's see. What did they say it was? Dun, dun. Oops. Not that one. Makuhari Chiba. Makuhari Chiba liquefaction. there's a lot. From the Sendai earthquake. All right, so that's not that big one. It's a different one. The Sendai earthquake. Let's see what we can learn about that one. I get my other computer to work. You can do it, computer. Wow, look at. Okay, so all of this water and yuck came out from that, the Japanese one, Sendai. Taken during Sendai earthquake, it shows liquefaction occurring in real time in Tokyo's Central Park. The real action happens halfway through the recording. Note how the cracks open and close, how the water starts to appear across the park simultaneously, and how the magnitude of the liquefaction starts to generate fountaining. Now imagine what this effect must have been like in Christchurch, where liquefaction was widespread. Okay, the Christchurch ones were the ones that I was talking about previously, and they just showed the houses partially sunk, kind of like Legos in mud or something. All right. It's talking about it, but it's not showing. All right, here's the video that they're talking about. Meanwhile, I think I might be able to get this to work. Oh, gone. All right, so the video they're talking about is gone. All right, so yeah, no. Interesting though. Okay, so that was the new liquefaction, which is literally liquid, and it'll just slurp you up. That's pretty scary. Hopefully, makes me glad my house is sitting on rock, I'll tell you that much. All right, I think I've got my second computer fully functional. Knock on wood. All right, now this one, zombie parasite. Okay, this one comes from Stand Up for Freedom, commenter on my channel who comes up with a lot of them. All right, this is another example of the parasites that make their hosts into zombies. This one has an interesting life cycle. Basically, it goes into fish eyes. It takes over fish. It causes them to swim to the top of the water and swim erratically so that a bird will eat them. And then the parasite gets into the bird, and it travels through the bird, and it has part of its life cycle there. And then it is dropped via fecal material into the ocean, where it sinks down and gets into snails, and then it lives part of its lifespan through a snail, and then it has to get eaten by a fish, and then it repeats. So, I mean, don't ask me how something like that evolves. I'm not really sure I trust the concept of evolution anymore after the ME, but the fish is infected with Diplostomum pseudopathecium parasites. Penetrates the fish skin before traveling to eye, setting up shop inside so it can grow. Parasite control the fish's behavior. And it has a tripartite life cycle. That there was nothing that could zombieify creatures before in my old timeline, not to mention having a 3-part life cycle. Parasites made in a bird's digestive tract, shedding their eggs in the feces. The eggs hatch in the water into larvae that seek out freshwater snails. They grow and multiply inside the snails before being released into the water, ready to track down their next host, a fish. The parasites then penetrate the skin of fish, traveling to the lens of the eye to hide out and grow. Anyways, okay, so another super weird zombie creature. All All right, let's see if we've got this. I think we might have cracked the nut on the second computer here. Okay, this is another weird one. I believe this is, yeah, this is another one from Stand Up for Freedom. This one's really weird. Really weird. Too bad I don't have like an image of this one. But basically, this one is so weird. But they're basically saying that at the Battle of Shiloh, people became wounded and their wounds started glowing. And now we have a scientific explanation for it. All right, let me go over to the live control room and see what you guys are up to. All right, so this is glowing wounds. And so supposedly this was only rumor and legend. I sure as heck never heard of any of that. I've never even heard of the Battle of Shiloh, to be honest. But the story now is that this Battle of Shiloh, the battle raged on for days, and the wounded were left out there, and it was cold and rainy, and it was swampy, and supposedly that's important. And they were laying there, and then during the night, something strange began to happen. Some men's wounds began to glow faintly for no apparent reason. Bloody wounds were giving off a faint greenish blue glow. Sorry, I got distracted. There was a weird bang outside. Okay, well, anyways, I don't know. So God, that was a weird sound. Okay. Anyways, okay, so the soldiers were glowing, and then so they were brought in, and the medics discovered that the ones whose wounds were glowing healed faster. Men reported that their wounds had been glowing during the night, seemed to have definite advantage over those whose wounds did not glow. They were healed faster, better survival, etc. This was apparently not isolated to a few incidents either, because it was prevalent enough to earn a nickname from soldiers. The glowing wounds were called Angel's Glow. These stories have often been dismissed as folklore, but now there seems to be a viable explanation for them. Okay, I've never heard of any of this baloney. It sounds completely ridiculous. It should have been on every spooky TV show ever. But now there's an explanation. Actually, when is this explanation supposedly came about? I'm trying to see when this article was written. Original story from 2001? Whoa, okay. All right, so the explanation was supposedly discovered by some school children for a science fair project. The kids were 17-year-old William Martin and 18-year-old Jonathan Curtis, but their mother was a microbiologist, so who knows how much she supposedly helped. But okay, so they're basically saying that it came from these parasitic worms called nematodes that carry a bacteria called photohabdus luminescens, which glows in the dark. They burrow into unsuspecting insect, puke out this luminescence bacteria, wait for the bacteria to kill the insect, and then feast. The bacteria only does this to kill insects. It also tends to kill any competing bacteria it may find. So the boys' theory was that the nematodes were drawn to insects which might frequent gruesome wounds, and then expelled the bacteria, and the bacteria killed all the other bacteria. And then, since this particular bacteria only does well in the cold, once these wounded people were brought into the hospital and it was warmer, then the luminescence bacteria also died. So the luminescence bacteria killed all the other bacteria, and then it was killed by the warmth. And so there we have basically a completely sanitized wound. That is the theory that these kids came up with. It's all a complete trip to me, because I've certainly never heard of glowing wounds or any of this stuff. All right, so there's a big old long spiel for you. All right. And yes, I now have my second computer working. What and where was this battle? Well, they're saying it was the Battle of Shiloh, but also that other battles also had it happen. Yeah, like the glowing meat I talked about a bit back. Yeah, glowing bacteria is totally a thing in this timeline. But it's not algae, it's bacteria. Algae, they're blaming the colorful stuff on more. No fair getting that much help on a science project. You know, she claims she didn't help much, but I don't know. I mean, did this any of this even happen? I don't know. I mean, is this the ME made the whole story up? Were there even two kids at a science fair? I don't know. I mean, I have to wonder whenever I read these. I mean, did this all really happen in this timeline and I just got here, or is it all just a story I'm reading on the internet? Nobody researched it before. Yeah, you know, like so many, they're basically saying that nobody believed it or something. I don't know. We didn't have glowing bacteria in my old timeline, so I mean, they had deep sea fish. They came out with the deep sea fish to do the glowing thing, and that was it. And before that, there was only like fireflies. I can't think of anything else out besides fireflies, actually. Yeah, how can we trust the info? You know, I just, all I can do is look online. I mean, I obviously am not going to get a wounded guy and put him in a swamp for 2 days. So, I mean, how can you trust the info? Luminescent mushrooms now. Yeah, there's luminescent worms. Even in even in North America, we have glowing worms, all kinds of stuff. So, the whole glowing thing is pretty big in this timeline. My friend's dad is a bit of a history buff, but he never heard of Black Tom. Yep, nobody heard of Black Tom. Everything glows in this timeline. Yeah, I'm waiting for my glowing trees. I've got a couple spots to plant trees, and I'm holding off to see what the Emmy comes up with. Bioluminescent Bay in Puerto Rico. Yes, yeah, those are the bays that here's a trip because Dark Wolf's Den, we have one of those bays here. In it seasonally glows off the coast of California here in Northern California now. And I'll tell you, a number of years ago, they had one bioluminescent event, and it was like the biggest deal of the century when we went down there because we'd never seen or heard of anything like it, and it was epic, absolutely epic. Let me get an idea of how they look. I mean, it is insanely beautiful if you guys haven't seen it yet. Because basically you drop the water and it just sparkles like glowing bits. I mean, it was crazy. And we only had it for that one day. But so yeah, this is about right cuz see as you splash along, it glows every time you disturb the bacteria. And so you just want to disturb the bacteria all day because it's amazing. So then we went back the next day and it was already over with. It's very fickle. Well, that was the first time there was ever anything at our coast like that. And it was supposed to be this special, amazing, once in a lifetime thing. Well, I just found out last year that we have them every year now. They're very fickle when you can find them. They'll show up one day and the next day, nothing. But we have them every year. We never had them every year. Everybody I talked to is shocked to find out that they happen every year. People who grew up here. I mean, look at that. It's amazing. It's just, I don't even know how to describe it. But no, we did not have freaking bioluminescent red tides every year. I just can't stop going on about that because it's ridiculous. Has anyone bought one of the rainbow eucalyptus trees to grow? Yeah, it's a little bit too cold here for those, so I haven't. Plus, eucalyptus are kind of a fire hazard, so they're not ideal for my region. So it could be like in the movie Avatar's Jungle at Night. I would not be surprised at all. I really would not be surprised if eventually we get... Okay, so anyway, there's the bioluminescent bays, which we apparently have already. Okay, let's see. All right, this one is from Bob Bobertson, another frequent commenter on my channel. All right. Unprecedented number of skyjackings in 1972. There were 60 skyjackings in 1972. Now, granted, I was kind of young then, but basically how I remember it is that we had a few skyjackings over the course of maybe a decade. And there was much chatter about them, of course, because they were so unique. And nobody died, and that is why they always suggested that you never fight back, and you always do what the skyjackers say, because they really just want something and they don't want to kill you. And the reason we thought they didn't want to kill you is because originally when these would happen, they just, almost all of them was somebody trying to get into another country, and he wasn't able to get there for whatever reason. So there was never any deaths. Well, apparently... Now, they had 60 of them in 1 year, and some people died. Over 60 planes were skyjacked in 1972, and people were killed during the attempts. Holding the planes for ransom became the biggest reason for skyjackings. And see, in my timeline, the biggest reason for skyjackings is somebody was just needed to get to another country. And it was usually some kind of weird political thing or something. So anyway, there's this other weird story about this guy, ex-Detroiter behind infamous 1972 skyjacking, tells his story. Never heard of this. Lois Moore, threatening nuclear terrorism. His 3-man hijacking team forced 9 landings spanning Canada to Cuba over 30 hours. They spoke with the White House, received $2 million in cash, and shot the co-pilot in the arm before a final landing in Havana on sparks and burning rubber. I swear it did not happen. I'm sorry. So now he's coming forward and saying he did it to turn the spotlight on a brutal, racist Detroit police department when he hijacked that plane 43 years ago. The police were threatened to harm his wife and kids and put him in prison on trumped-up rape charges, all because he had stood up against police brutality. You know what? I mean, like somebody was just saying, I mean, this is way more insane than like the D.B. Cooper thing. I mean, it should be always talked about. You forced 9 landings? No freaking way. No, that did not happen in my timeline. I'm sorry. Just didn't. I'll stick with the glowing mucus coming soon. Yeah. One thing I have heard like rumors of is spiritual people glowing. I wouldn't be surprised if we started to see that. The glowing people for whatever reason. We need to support and trust each other. This world is rough. Yeah, I don't know what to think. You hear about this stuff, yet none of it's really happened to us. So I don't know. Maybe we are protected. I don't know. "25 years ago, my ex and I saw something green and luminescent about 4 foot long growing up the river in the current in Mississippi River. It traveled a quarter mile before we lost sight. Somebody suggested maybe it was an electric eel. Electric eels don't glow in my timeline. In fact, they wouldn't shock you that hard either. I mean, they can kill you now, but in my timeline, they just give you a little whiz. I was a child of the 70s, and when there was this hijacking, it was big news on the TV. Wasn't that often. Exactly. There was just like a couple of them, and they were big deal. There was freaking 60 of them. I mean, there's not even that many now. 60 in a year, it'd be like, oh, another. We have that many school shootings, maybe not even 60 of those. Anyways, okay, so yeah, good find, Bob Bobertson. Okay, this was another one from Bob Bobertson. I saw this about a week ago. I was thinking about looking into it, and I didn't, but I saw an image like this. Apparently, now you train your abs with, what did he call it? The stomach vacuum. Tell me if you have ever seen that. That does not look right at all to me. But apparently you can suck your stomach in quite a bit now. Actually, when I try to do it, I can really suck my stomach in a lot more than I thought. So basically, they're saying that this is better than doing ab crunches for your stomach. And you just slurp it in. It's like every man does this when he sees a chick and he wants to look younger. But all right, let's see. I think I had this looked up before, but now I don't. All right. So let's look it up again. All right, there we are. Okay, so yeah, I think this is the same one. Here, the abdominal region is composed of internal and external muscles. External muscles known as rectus abdominis and external obliques. I just remember abdominal muscles and obliques. I don't remember rectus abdominis or external obliques. I suspect that this might be another one where there's additional muscles now. I covered a lot of those in a previous video, but I don't think I covered every extra muscle there was. Okay, so now they're saying that the transversus abdominis and the lumbar multifidus are the inner abdominal muscles. I've never heard of any of that before, ever. These muscles are rarely discussed and the most neglected. Yeah, because nobody ever heard of them. They lie beneath the rectus abdominis and external obliques. The inner abdominal muscles support posture and control deep breathing during power movements, such as heavy squats. They're also saying that in the old days, this vacuum stomach thing was a common way to exercise the ab muscles, but that the current weightlifters have kind of forgotten about it, and maybe that's why they have such bloated stomachs, unless it has to do with the steroids. Isometric contraction of the transversus abdominis. A stronger transversus abdominis can create a stronger Valsalva maneuver, the powerful exhale necessary to contract a muscle during intense workload. Best exercise you can perform to shrink your waistline. How could I never have heard of this? This is how you shrink your waistline now, by sucking in your stomach. All right, so you stand upright. Place your hands on your hips. Exhale all the air out of your lungs completely. This is kind of weird because you're supposed to exhale your lungs, but you're supposed to expand your chest. It seems like opposite, but bring your stomach in as much as possible and hold. So anyways, that's the latest deal on this. I don't know. There's a lot of weird MEs for me this week, a lot of them. I think we did have a shift. I mean, some of these could be old, but here is one that I know just shifted. I don't know if you guys remember, but I just looked at this last week, and then a couple days ago I looked again, and this one has flip-flopped a lot for me. How long does it take for a flag to show? But basically, you can see that we now have the white stripe under the blue. We had the red stripe under the blue for like a month or two. Before that was white. I mean, this thing has flipped back and forth. So this is like one of my big indicators. What color is the stripe under the blue? I just talked about this last week. I'm kind of afraid to go back and look at what I said, because I'm betting that I now said that it was... I bet that what I said changed, because that seems to be what happens. But anyways, so this is a change for me. I don't know if it is for you, but in the last, somewhere between last Wednesday and the next 4 days, this changed. This is a flip. This flip-flops. Have you already tried the forehead coin test? What, that it sticks? Yeah, I did that on another live stream. Yeah, it was red the other day. Plume, yes, you make me very happy. Yes, it was just freaking red. And I know I talked about it in the last live stream, and I'm afraid to look at it now. Maybe somebody will be brave enough to go back there and see what I said last live stream. But I know I talked about this one flip-flopping. I have not been seeing the red stripe. Last week on Wednesday, I looked at the flag because I was talking about how I remembered the stars all lining up instead of having that crisscross pattern. I am sure that I mentioned that the stripe was often changing. I am sure I mentioned that. So anyways, yeah, Dark Wolf's Den, if you want to go look at it, and leave in the comments where, like, what a time marker it's at. It was white originally for me, then red, now white. It was white originally for me, but I think it's flipped more than that. I think it's flipped a bunch of times. It's just, I think it was Mandela Effects that mentioned this one, and that is when I started watching it. And it's flipped like at least 3 times since I've been watching it. Anyway, so yes, this thing flip-flops all over the universe. Tripping me out. I've been watching the stars a bit more now, too. This one's more like I remembered bigger stars, but I don't know what's going to happen next. Anyway, I'm glad you guys remember that. All right, so let's see. Here's another one that I wanted. Ooh, you know what? God, what a trip. I had stuff saved on here, and it's gone. I mean, there were windows on here. I'm just realizing how many windows are missing. All right, I got all those. All right, so this one I heard in the car today. All right. The Bohemian Rhapsody lyrics. Now, interestingly enough, they're apparently coming out with some kind of movie on with the Bohemian Rhapsody and that whole the band and everything. Whenever there's some kind of documentary coming out, it almost seems like there's going to be a bunch of MEs in there. It's like reality is shopping around the new storyline, but all right, so what lyrics do you remember? And I'm going to sing a little piece of it. Okay, so it goes, Mama just killed a man, put a gun against his head, pulled trigger, now he's dead. What goes in there? Pulled what trigger, now he's dead. Put a gun against his head, pulled trigger, now he's dead. Mama, ooh. All right, so what goes in that slot there right before trigger? That is the question of the hour for you guys. All right, Silver wants me to look at Trevi Fountain. I don't think I know diddly about Trevi Fountain, but let me look at it. Trevi Fountain. Yep, I don't know anything about Trevi Fountain, so I'm useless with this one. The UK flag changes too. Yeah, it did not have the upside down option, and the lines were centered. The other thing about the UK flag that changes for me, besides the fact that it got onto Hawaii and Australia when it did not used to be on there. Okay, so for me, it did not have these lines here were centered. The first time I saw it uncentered, I thought that somebody was an idiot and couldn't line up their lines. I mean, that's how clearly wrong it was to me. I'm like, oh, who's that idiot who can't make the UK flag right? What a lazy bum. Okay, so anyway, that's an older ME. A lot of people have discussed it. One thing that's been changing slowly for me is the center cross is getting fatter and fatter. There did not used to be a huge gulf between these skinny little ones and this big fat one. This cross is way fatter than it used to be for me. And that is slowly changing. Fluctuating flip-flop flag. Yeah, really. The ultimate Mandela indicator. Australia is definitely the weirdest change. Maybe for you, but for me, it's the missing Arctica. Australia's moved, but Arctica, an entire continent, disappeared. I know not everybody remembers Arctica, but for those of us that do, it is a trip. I don't remember you showing a flag last week. That'll be a trip if the whole thing's gone, but I guess it wouldn't be beyond what the ME can do. I'm sure it was last week, though. I mean, I guess it could have been the week before, but it was very recent. You got just shot a man? Oh, for me, it was definitely just killed a man. Pulled what kind of trigger? That's the question. Pulled something trigger. So what goes right before trigger? Susan Gunther, photography, says the. Allie Taylor says my. Scott says my. James Johnson, the. Clyde Ewing, my. Christina Gerald, the. Looks like it's about 50-50. Bill Bird's got my. Maria's got my. Skookum, the. Not Paul's, the. Yeah, it's 50-50. Hey, Eva, the American flag is... Really? If it's not from the week before, then there's something wrong. Then, because I know I just talked about that. God, now I'm sure it was last week. If it's not the week before, then the ME ate it. Oh. All right, you know what? Maybe it was a week before. I do check this often, though, so... Do not mean the Antarctic, or there's another one, crosshatch. For some of us, there was Arctica. It was like Antarctica, except for it was on the other side. Antarctica is now listed as an ancient continent. For a while it was listed as a hypothesized, perhaps ancient continent. Now it is listed as a for sure ancient continent. Okay, so anyway, we still have some people. The last week you only covered British flag. All right, I'm gonna look, but I am sure. So Arctica doesn't exist anymore. David Windle, you didn't know? Yeah, there's no more Arctica. There is only the Arctic. There is no land mass at the North Pole, and the ice that is there is seasonal and is not permanent. So yeah, no more Arctica. That one was gone probably around 2014 for me, but I found out about it about 2 years ago. Yes. For a while, almost nobody remembered Arctica, so I'm glad to see you guys all. But I'll talk about Arctica all day because it is my biggest ME. Okay, so what is the lyrics? Oh, wait, I had him picked out earlier. For me, it was but it is now my trigger. Pulled my trigger, now he's dead. For me, it was and he says it really clearly. I mean, I don't want to play it because I'll get a copyright strike, but you guys can all run it on your time, and you will see that he very clearly says my trigger. It's not one of these questions where it could be and it jumped out at me when I was watching it listening to it on the radio this morning. The other one, that I am very suspicious of is this line here. Carry on, because nothing really matters. For me, it was because nothing really matters. But here it's as if nothing really matters. So I think that one's changed also. I'm quite sure it was because nothing really matters. So anyway, another fishy one for me. But the other one, I am sure it was the trigger. Nobody says pull my trigger. What does that even mean? It's the gun's trigger. The trigger. Anyway, it's just weird. Yeah, see, the whole thing is in the documentary. So there just happens to be a documentary. If I knew more about the whole history of all those songs, I bet you there's a jillion Emmys in there in the Queen history. And I would, if you knew a lot about them and their history, I would definitely check into their history now, because I'm betting there's a million changes in there. Every time there's a bunch of changes, there's a documentary. Right after JFK changed, there was a documentary on the JFK assassination. So now whenever a documentary comes out, I'm like really suspicious. And today I saw this change in this song for me, and I get home and sure enough, there's a documentary on the whole thing. So I know it was kind of smacked me in the face. Transcend 111 Channel Islands off California coast are new to me. Grew up in LA. Yes. No Channel Islands. There was only Catalina. I found out about Catalina about 15 years ago, and frankly, I was surprised. I did not know about it before then, but that was it. There was no freaking Channel Islands, and Catalina Island is now Santa Catalina Island, in case you didn't know about that. No, it was because 100%. Yeah, because nothing really matters to me. That's how it's supposed to go. Yes. It's because. Anyways, I don't know. The trigger for me and cuz. Yeah, it was cuz. It wasn't really because. So Arctis equals Arctica now, just an ocean when I Google search. Yeah, I never heard of Arctis. Is that an ocean? Arctis? Arctis. There's Arctic. Maybe that was another language. Arctic Ocean. We did have an Arctic Ocean, but I don't remember Arctis. Maybe other language called it that. What do you think about all the crazy hurricanes and earthquakes lately? All of the atmospheric things have changed. That I've just covered the earthquake changes. There's these medicanes. There's the little mini tornadoes are now quite dangerous. You've got the fire tornadoes. Um, it, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what to say about it. Yeah, it's a trip. And I don't want to get in a fight with Life Matrix or any of that stuff. So let's just shell the infighting here. I think it's a waste of time. It's just not the way I roll. So if anybody ever does anything bad enough that's worth me complaining about, I will complain. But all this little infighting about little piddly stuff, I am not interested in it. All right, so next one. Where to start? There's actually a million of these. I'm not sure where I want to start at. So I've done that one. All right, let's go on this page. This is one by Jay Emblin, one of my very astute watchers who tells me many neat things. Apparently you can have a rainbow caused by dew, by the morning dew, and is called a dew bow. Thank you, Jay Emblin, for noticing this. Dew bow atmospheric phenomena. So these little rainbows are caused by dew on the ground. They're kind of mild right now, but I have a feeling that they will intensify. All right, dew bow. So you can see there's kind of a rainbow there. So basically they're saying that the water droplets in the ground refract the light and make a rainbow type of thing. Here's another dew bow. Dew bows are a kind of rainbows. The difference lies in the plane of projection and in the fact that static droplets are reflecting the refracted light back into the eyes of the observer. Guess it reminds me of when you play in sprinklers. Yeah, the thing is that water was in the air sprinkling, but now it is just sitting on the ground. But look, there's a whole rainbow thing. I mean, I've definitely noticed the last few years that rainbows reflect in stuff a lot more than it used to be. And just like when you're sprinkling the yard with water and just things that I did millions of times, I will now see rainbows in them where I didn't. And I've long suspected that that's an ME, but it's a subtle one. All right. The rainbow cone resulting, the apex of which is the observer's eye, is cut by the plane. The result is a hyperbola, but for our eyes, there is always a circle. The main problem observing dew bows is the brightness of the field. A polarization filter makes the dew bow contrast better from background. I think this is filming stuff here. Talking about. Anyway, so yeah, there was no dew bows. Has there been any new body changes? Teresa Lynch. I'm going to do a video probably in the next few days on something. It's not a huge, easily noticeable thing, but it is an interesting one. Sun was already down, all gray clouds, but there were pink clouds in between. Tvijik Zix, I had noticed a few things lately. I was waiting to see if it was going to be a trend, but this is what I've noticed lately, because in my old timeline, as I'm sure many of you remember, the redness of the sun would be over there by where the sun set. And then this timeline, it now shows both where the sun set and on the other side, the opposite side. But what I've been noticing lately is that I am seeing a lot of red on the opposite side and hardly any where the sun actually set. It's almost like it's switching to the other side of the sky or something. So I'm seeing most of the red opposite the sun now. And then they've got that weird, what do you call that girdle thing with the purple? Can't remember what the name of it is now. The belt of Venus, Venus's girdle, is over on the opposite side. It's supposed to be the shadow. Let's see if you can see it. See how it's all purple here? This has been developing for quite a number of years. There's the moon right there, just in case you forget it comes up during the day now. So basically, they're saying this is the shadow of the Earth. And as many people have said, the shadow on what? I guess now we have shadows on the air? I don't know. So anyway, you've got this, and then you've got all this red. And what I've been seeing is over where the sun set on the other side, I'm not seeing much red. Sometimes I see this weird orange juice color, but that's usually later after it's almost dark. So I don't know. I don't know if is the red switching sides. I don't know, but something to keep an eye on. Yeah, I don't want to be fighting with other people who don't want to fight. Life Matrix doesn't want to fight. I don't want to fight, so let's not fight. Other people's fights over little piddly stuff, I don't want to bring them here. Sometimes you can see a rainbow-like haze. Yeah. Wait, what are we talking about though specifically? Yeah, I've been seeing green and turquoise. Oh, that's interesting. The dark gray clouds freak me out and never existed before. Plume, yes. Yes, I call them the dirty clouds. It used to be that if you were going to get a rain, I mean, you were really going to get a rain almost for sure, you would get those dark clouds. And otherwise, they were white. But now you get this, it almost looked like smog clouds. And that was one of the first things I noticed before I even knew about the ME is I just kept seeing these dirty clouds. And when they first came, they were way on the horizon all the time. But now they're just like right in your face. Let's see. Let's just see some pictures of clouds. Okay, so there's... that wasn't what I wanted to click on. All right, so let's see. So a lot of clouds have this dark bottom for starters, even though they are not going to rain. I never had that before for starters. They did not have dark bottoms and light tops like that. Here's a pretty good example of the dirty looking ones. I've never saw it like that before. We have these bulging up quite a bit where I live behind the mountains, and they were white. They were just white clouds, always white. I see a lot of these dirty clouds now, a lot. See, actually, there was a good one here. This is another example. See these? This is another change that's changed a lot for me, is that clouds used to be at the same level, and they were also the same color. You didn't have dark ones and light ones all like mixed in like this with all these. Oh, so it makes a beautiful look, definitely, but this is not my old timeline at all. See, look, dark cloud, light cloud. I think it might be gearing up to have more and more colors in them and more contrast. But yeah, no dirt clouds, people. The other thing they do now is they there's so many levels of them. There'll be clouds down here, clouds up there, these like towering clouds. It's a trip. I think the new dew rainbows are partly because of our new white sun. I don't know. The whole thing I think is all together. I bought my fiance a barnwood flag for his birthday in April, and sometime between April and July, it changed. The stripe below is white, and that aggravates me to no end. Yeah. Well, this last one, it just changed for me in the last week. I don't know, but it's changed a number of times, so. The sky did not frequently have two kinds of clouds, always at the same times. It does now, two layers of foreground kind and a different background kind. Yeah, you get that white sheet over the sky and then other clouds underneath it. It's like a haze, but it's a cloud haze. So, yeah, that I'm not really seeing a very good image of it. So it makes it look like the sky is white. Here's kind of a decent image of it. But so it makes the sky look white with white clouds. It's like the sky turned white. Yeah, that's really weird. And it does it a lot now, a whole heck of a lot. I'm not really seeing a really good image of it in here, but this one's we've been seeing tons of hole punch clouds. Those are coming out of the woodwork. At first there was only one, and now we've got tons of them. Okay, this one kind of shows the sheet. See, there's like a cloud sheet here and then these lower clouds. That didn't used to have that. They would all be at the same level. There were not multiple levels of clouds. I absolutely agree with you there. Those are heavily photoshopped. Well, I don't know, but I know I see clouds just like that out in the sky. And I know those sky ones were probably not photoshopped. Rainbow clouds next, Christina Gerald. Too late. We already have rainbow clouds. Those have been around for a while. Just waiting to get more of them, basically. What causes rainbow colors in clouds? So they're going to do the whole light refraction, rainbow stuff. Okay, that one's not real, but this one, I've seen a few of these. They were small. There's different versions of this, supposedly caused by different things. But look at that one. Wow. Let's click on that one. Rainbow cod spotted in sky over Ireland and Scotland. Look at that baloney. It's only going to intensify, I think. Lots of very low-lying clouds. You know, I think they're still getting lower and lower. The skies look so ugly. The dirt clouds to me are quite ugly, but I think that they may just be a stage. I think that they're maybe going to turn like pinkish or purplish, something like that. That's my guess. But right now they're dirt clouds. Like when the moon stopped coming out at night, and it was so dark for a while, and I was like, oh, this new reality kind of sucks because a lot of the nights are so dark you can't use the moon to get light. But then the sky lightened on its own. So things are just a phase, I think. So now you don't really need a flashlight because the sky is always light. I used to think the flat earth crew was a bit mad, but I have been studying this a tad and I cannot discern the curvature. Yeah, there's an interesting thing there. Nobody can really see the curvature. I'm not sure if it's just because something about how our eyes, if this place is like a sim, then that would explain it. But I don't know. There's something weird. I don't really know if that means that it's flat. I mean, that story does not sound any better an explanation because of other problems. So I do think that they find some interesting things. The things they find do not convince me that the Earth is flat, though. I have a rainbow video with weird, unidentified, slow-moving dots. You know, who knows what is going on anymore? 6 points in the large star on the Australian flag. Now it's huge with 7 points on this timeline. Australian history's changed a ton for me. Apparently the 7th point on that star has to do with these territories, these extra territories. Unfortunately, I don't even remember those territories being like that originally. So, but I don't remember the UK having jurisdiction over Australia. In my timeline, they would just dump prisoners there. They did not manage it. In this timeline, most of the people that are from Australia are not even descended from prisoners. You used to be able to see the curvature from long straight roads. Example, the VW test track in Germany. Huh. Oh, that's interesting. You know, one thing I will say is I've definitely noticed that there's been some changes in what mountains I can see. That was one I saw even a couple years ago, that there were, I can see more mountains behind the mountains here. I looked down the road, this one road I looked down, and I'm like, I didn't remember seeing those mountains behind those mountains. And so yeah, there's definitely changes in perspective or something. Okay, so anyways, I don't think I'm going to get through everything because I'm really sleepy today, but okay, this is another one from Jay Emblin. Okay, Jay Emblin mentioned this resurrection fern. Now, I've heard about this, and it wasn't that many weeks ago. But what I heard about was resurrection plant. Let me see if I can even find that. So I was looking for this the other day, and I couldn't find it. Yeah, okay. Now, I'm not sure if this is still out there or what, but what I heard about maybe a month ago was resurrection plant. And what that was a dried up plant that would roll in the wind, and then when the rain hit it, it would open. But it was still a dead plant, but it would have, somehow it would open up and scatter its seeds everywhere. But it was still dead. Now, I can't find it, that plant that I heard about before. I can't find it now. Now, I don't know if I'm just looking up the wrong thing, but I know it was definitely had the word resurrection in it. And I think it was resurrection plant. But now all I can find is this resurrection fern that was mentioned by Jay Emblin. And what's really interesting about this one is it actually turns green again. So it has something in the cells that lets it dehydrate and bend and then rehydrate later. So it basically goes from a dead plant to a live plant. And I think we have some video on here.
Hi, Ken here.
All right, I'm going to shut off the yapping. But he's got a... Okay, so it starts like that. And if I remember correctly, there is a... So that's like dead. I think that he did a, so they have dehydrins in it. So it goes from this, dehydrins is a lubricant, to this in the course of like 3 hours. Now, I think that he had a time lapse in here. Yep, 2.5 hours in 60 seconds. So there it is. 2.5 hours, this plant is going to come from dead to alive. But I can guarantee you there was nothing in my old timeline that could do this. When I heard of those resurrection plants, I was already pretty suspicious. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit here. But jump ahead. I was almost at the end now. So I was already suspicious when I heard about those resurrection plants, tumbleweeds things. But, I mean, the plant was still dead. But now that this thing, it completely recovers because of, what was that word he used? Desiccants or something. I think we're going to hear more about these desiccants, or what the heck was that word? See if I can find it again. All right, well, I forgot already, but... All right, so there's another one, too. It's not just this one. There's also this dinosaur plant that I also found. So I got something in my eye. Will this plant return to life in 3 hours? Oh, yeah, here we go. YouTube. There we go. All right, so there's another similar guy. So he's yapping away. Basically, it starts as this dead ball. And you can buy these things. It's called dinosaur plant. Now you can see there's a little green in there, unlike the resurrection fern. But you put that sucker in a little water, and in 3 hours, it grows and it's live again. I'm betting it has that desiccants stuff in it. So that's like after 3 hours, and then overnight, once it's overnight, it turns into those. So this one is a little bit less weird because it's still brown on the bottom, so you're guessing it was green inside. But anyways, still a trip. So anyway, the first one, that fern thing, was from J. Emblin, so really good find on there. Okay, this next one, let me clear out some of these. I don't know if anybody saw any difference in the Trevi fountain. I don't know anything about the Trevi fountain, so I can't help you on that one. I'll leave that one up there in case anybody sees anything. Lake. All right, now this one was from KSP Crafter, another commenter on my channel. Now, what's weird about this one, I saw this one a few years ago, but it has changed since I saw this one. And this phenomena has changed. All right. Actually, okay, this is not the video I planned to start with, but basically this lake just sings in the morning because of ice. Let me put this on so I can hear. Yep, without special equipment. Okay, it sounds like something from Star Wars or something, but my old timeline, you know, you just heard ordinary cracking noises, and that was it. There were no Star Wars fire sounding noises. But the other one that I wanted to okay, let's see. I think this is the one. Says I haven't watched this one.
How was your day?
Oh, all right, I'm gonna have to live through this ad, so I'm gonna turn that off. The Star Wars sound singing bird sounds like a lake playing Space Invaders. Yeah, it does. Look up ghost hunting tools and see if you have any spirits around me. Ugh, I don't know if I want to know if there's any around. You know, I live by myself, it'd be kind of spooky. Sometimes ignorance is bliss. I mean, it's one thing to go out and see spooky things, but having them at your house, no, that one might be a little harder to deal with. Are we done with this? Wait. Okay, here we go. So this guy goes out to this lake, and he's going to skip rocks.
Amazing! I've never heard that before. Whoa.
All right, let's see. Has he done it yet? All right. So this video has been making the rounds.
A stick. Just throw a stick at me.
It'll be cold.
Just throw a stick at me.
Do you know how long it takes a person to die of hypothermia?
How long? Wait a minute.
Right.
This would be a great place to skip a rock. Dude, it'll never go in. And look at that. Perfect skipping rock right there. Here we go.
Okay, now in my original timeline, when he skipped it, each time it skipped, it would make a noise. And he was skipping it on the ice. But now it kind of just keeps skittering off with echoes and everything. It doesn't really clearly sound like each time he skipped it. It didn't just make a noise when he hit it. The other thing is he just was better a skipper. He made a big thing about skipping it really good last time. And this time I can't swear if that's also a change, but it just seems like the spiel is different. Now, this part I don't remember ever seeing, even though I've watched this video many times. He goes and he gets a bigger one. Whoa! And lobs it in there, and there's no skipping.
Whoa! Damn, I gotta do that again!
So he's gonna get a big rock and lob it in there. I never saw this version. Whoops.
Amazing! I've never heard that before.
Again.
Wow.
Like I remember it. Okay,
I have to bring your dad out here. Me and your dad are gonna have a heyday here.
You guys are both good at skipping
This video
rocks.
just gets longer.
But you don't even have to be good.
And then he lobs a big rock in it.
Away.
Here we go. That was not in the old video for sure. So anyway, this whole singing lake thing just seems to be growing is the main point I'm trying to get to. But also this video keeps changing. There was just a little clip of it, and now there's a whole lot of it available, and he throws the big rock. So those are the changes that... What is the sound? The sound is supposedly the sound like the ice is making when it's impacted. So apparently even just the morning temperature changes can cause these lakes to make these noises now. And it's weird because I've been to lakes that are all icy. No. Anyway, I'm just really suspicious of that. This is something we should all know about as being super uber cool. And we don't. All right, we got to there. This is a weird personal ME. All right. In the 90s, for me, Toys R Us went bankrupt. And the Toys R Us near me closed, and they were bankrupt as far as I know. So I was rather shocked when many years later I moved and there was a Toys R Us, and everybody acted like nothing ever happened. And if you look in the histories now, it never went bankrupt until just like this year. So when I went bankrupt again, it really tripped me out. I'm like, okay, maybe it's really dead this time. And then, like this week, I saw this thing where they're saying that. So first they sold off everything in Toys R Us and they were going to close them. And then they're saying that they couldn't get enough money for the assets of the Toys R Us, which makes no sense because they've already closed them, laid off all the employees, and sold off all the stock. They're saying they couldn't get enough money for their assets, so they're going to open again. And not be bankrupt. And the whole thing is ridiculous. Toys R Us reopening. Okay, now it's a group of investors. Last I checked, they just said they. So, apparently Toys R Us is not going to disappear yet again. There may be a second act for Toys R Us, which shut down hundreds of stores over the summer. Investors said bankruptcy court filing Tuesday that it's scrapping an auction for Toys R Us assets. The investors believe they'll do better by potentially reviving the toy chain rather than selling it off for parts. The investors said they'll work with potential partners to develop new ideas for the stores in the U.S. and other countries that could bring back these iconic brands in a new and reimagined way. I don't get it. Like, you shut the store, you sell off all the stuff inside the store, and it's empty, and now you're going to bring it back. I don't get it. And anyways, but that was just weird for me, the whole storyline, because this is the second aborted bankruptcy for me. And I'm wondering if in a year they will have never totally gone bankrupt and it'll be just like that last time. All right. Okay, here's another weird one. I've never heard of Wall Street getting bombed before. I mean, I didn't know it as well as the Black Tom not happening, but it is suspicious. The bombing occurred at 12:01 on September 16th. The blast killed 30 people. Another 8 died later. The bombing was never solved. Investigators and historians believe the Wall Street bombing was carried out by Galleanists, Italian anarchists, a group responsible for a series of bombings the previous year. The attack was related to post-war social unrest, labor struggles, and anti-capitalist agitation in the United States. Anti-capitalist agitation? I mean, Wall Street bombs killed more people than the 1910 bombing of Los Angeles Times, which was the deadliest act of terrorism on U.S. soil up to that point. Anyway, I never heard of the Wall Street bombing, so that's another one Bob Bobertson pointed out. Good find. Another one he mentioned was Columbus Day being a national holiday. I have to admit that I don't remember it being a day off in California for anybody. This year it was a day off for the post office. I can't swear to that one, but it is a national holiday now, and I'm a little bit suspicious of this. All right, so that was also Bob Bobertson. Okay, next thing. This is from Esther Anders, another commenter on my channel who comes up with a lot. Kind of just a simple logo one. But I eat these occasionally, and I am quite positive that they did not have this logo like this. Come along, will you please load? Kettle chips with this giant K on the top. I actually don't remember all these hash marks and chewed up bits on the kettle either. That whole logo looks different for me. I just remember it way simpler. I could not find any record of any other logo style for kettle chips other than this. I looked. I can't find any history of them changing it recently or at all. There's no record of any logo changes. There are no images of any Kettle brand chips other than looking like this. And I was eating these chips, maybe a few months ago at least, and they didn't look like that. So I don't know what to say, but I think that's a logo change. That K is new to me, Susan Gunther Photography. I don't remember all them hash mark, like shoe marks or slash marks either, actually. Gulf Tower bombing in Pittsburgh in the 70s? Yes. Okay. Same with Statue of Liberty bombing. Yeah, there was no Black Tom bombing in my timeline. There's evidence to suggest the Egyptians may have walked North America before that. Well, there may well be evidence in this timeline because there's a lot of evidence of a lot of things in this timeline. Okay. Columbus Day. And all right, so I got through one page out of 2. So there's like no way I'm going to finish. But what did I want to... Oh, yeah, this one. I definitely want to mention this one. Okay, this one, I was looking into it. I think somewhere I did mention this somewhere. That there was an image of the Sphinx having a hole in the top of the head. That was new to me some months ago. Now, there was an image of somebody standing kind of down in the head. And then I had an image of kind of a discolored blot at the top of the head, like it was a patch. Well, now the plot at the top of the head is much clearer now that it is some kind of cap cover. It even looks like there's a plastic or some kind of a hatch on the top. You can see the ring that's right on the head. Now, this is where it's changed for me since last time. So last time you could see a hole at the top of the head, but not this ring. This ring was absolutely not here. The storyline now is that they're saying that the head was fitted for a crown. I don't really make much sense to me because you've already got this headdress thing. So, I mean, it looks like the crown is cutting into the headdress thing and the whole thing. But anyway, this ring here that was gouged out was not in my old timeline. And then it brings the question of why is it not here now? So they're probably going to argue that this is all plaster or something. And maybe in this timeline it is. Because the whole thing looks like plaster in this timeline. The other thing I did want to mention, though, is just the Sphinx looks like crap in this timeline. You used to see, like, the form of the haunches, and it looks somewhat elegant. It looks like just a big... I mean, it doesn't even look like a thing from the back. It looks terrible. The shape is just... It's not there. It doesn't have the sinuous look. And they used to say it was a lion, but is that the real one? I don't think. Miniatures. That's miniatures. All right. This lump here in the front is continuing to get bigger. And now it's kind of lumpy here at the shoulders, too. But another thing that has changed is I mentioned the tail last time. But the tail has gotten bigger. It's a lot fatter. It was kind of a little rat tail before. And now it's kind of a big, fat, juicy tail. Look at how fat that tail is now. It's a big, juicy, fat tail now. I'm thinking that they might be boning up to say that this Sphinx is a dog like Osiris or something, because this tail is not a lion's tail. There would be no reason to call it a lion if it didn't at least have that puff of fur at the end that a lion has, whereas a dog could have a tail like this. So anyway, this tail is way fatter. Now, originally the tail, Mandela Effects had just mentioned cryptically to look at the back of the sphinx, and that's when I noticed the tail. But the tail is this is like double fatness from when the last time I looked at it is. And just overall, that is the ugliest mess of blocks and brick. They're also saying that the original sphinx is now all just hidden under these bricks. Now, originally, for me, the sphinx was carved out of rock, and they had a few bricks in there for repairs. But now, basically, it's all bricked over, pretty much, and you don't really see the original. That was not like that in my old timeline, though. Of course, my old timeline didn't have ears and a lot of other stuff. It didn't have that notch under the ear. There's a whole bunch of... Here's that notch. That was about 6 months ago, that notch. So anyway, things keep changing. I don't remember this little piece right here missing. This was weird. There's apparently they've dug in all over the place on the Sphinx now. Look, the back of the head is now flattened on the back of the Sphinx head, and doesn't even look like a head anymore. It is one mess. I mean, it is just a mess. There's another hole here at the bottom where somebody dug, all in the history. My old Sphinx didn't have all these holes in it. I remember a photo where the Hawass guy was coming out of a hole in the head, rear end of the Sphinx. How is that possible? I don't know. There's a lot of holes in it in this timeline. I never saw any of those, though. Looks nothing like I did for me when it was young. Yeah, it was much nicer looking. That's actually talking about the Hawass guy. There are some changes for that. Let me remember his name. This one's interesting because he is Zawahi Hawass in this timeline. I know that he was Zawahi Hawass before, not Zahi Hawass. There was another syllable in here. So it's a bigger name change than a lot of them because there's a whole syllable missing out of there. Zawahi Hawass. I spent a lot of time making sure I could say that properly. He was Zawahi Hawass before. And they always said he was Minister of Antiquities. And in many places, they still call him that. But the title is actually different now. It is, let me look that one up. I can't remember the new title. Antique. All right. He was appointed Minister of State of Antiquities Affairs. So I'm sure he was Minister of Antiquities, and they still call him that in a lot of places, but here he was Minister of State for Antiquities Affairs is what he really was. I'm really suspicious about that. I can't swear to that one, but I'm really suspicious. But I am absolutely positive he was Zawahi Hawass before. I mean, there's a million changes at Giza Plateau, too, so. Who the heck knows? Oh, let's see, where am I? We did the chicken. Okay, this one is interesting. Not sure if I can find the original one here. I saw before. It was on YouTube, though. Let's try one more thing. Okay, so this is not the exact video I saw before, but
the challenges facing
close.
the country never stop.
So basically, this guy has this pet crocodile that he pets, and it doesn't bite him. He's had it for 20 years. He keeps it in here. In my old timeline, they were just mean little suckers. It's a very fat guy. You just couldn't do this before. They would bite you. They were just kind of mindless biters. But crocs are becoming a lot nicer. He pushes it around. He throws it around. It doesn't try to bite him. He even gives him a bath all the time. Let's see if I can find that one where he bathes it. Right, that was actually a good one right there. All right, here's the one where he bathes him like once a week. Scoops out the water. All right, there's the one where he bathes him. So he gets a brush and he brushes him even in the mouth. And you just couldn't do this before. Look at, this is it looks like the croc even likes it, which is weird. Look, he even brushes in the teeth. Look at it, and he's totally relaxed. They were just mindless biters in my old timeline. You couldn't do this. So anyways, big Emmy for me, crocodile behavior. No freaking way. Look, he's enjoying it. So anyway, our family pet is a 6-foot croc. All I have to say is that's a croc. I don't think that was in my old timeline. All right, this one, another Reddit post. Catfish will eat anything. I think I've mentioned this before, but I guess they eat armadillos now as well. I don't know how they're going to digest that, all that armor, but I guess they eat. I mean, in my old timeline, catfish ate fish, insects. This is not even that big a catfish, for Christ's sakes. So anyways, another ME for me. People born with tiny tails. I heard about that in my old timeline. I know some people were saying it was an ME for them. I think it's more prevalent here, but that was considered extremely rare, and there'd be just like 1 or 2 people that you had photos of. Now you're seeing a lot of people that have tails. I love the way you said big, juicy, fat tail. That is a really fat crocodile. He's not hating life, I don't think. Animals friendlier in this decade. Some of them. It's definitely a trend, and they're smarter. But there's also some very nasty animals we didn't used to have. Birds eating birds. Yeah. And like all those weird birds that eat like animal fat, and they're like vampire birds, but I've covered that one before. All right, see, where are we? Okay, an extra creepy animal that I ran into. Covered that one. Covered that one. I think this, let's see if I can get through this one page before. You know, friend. Brevi. this one. This one showed up on Reddit. All it said was it was Linifrin brevi barbata. All right. It looks like a half plant, half animal. I mean, it's all mouth. It has like a fin at the back of its head, and then it has this tentacle thing. It looks like it's half plant. I mean, and then it's got one of those lure things too. It's got giant teeth. This is totally a creature of this timeline. Anyway, I just wanted to mention it because it's so freaking ridiculous. Linifrin brevi barbata. I was not able to. Bearded sea devil eats fish and souls. I guess they're joking, but I couldn't find much info on it. But very creepy. All right. This one is another personal Emmy of mine, that they can do things on motorcycles now that they just couldn't even slightly do before. Even a wheelie was a big deal in the old timeline. Balance appears to be and this is not just this one guy doing this. You know, other people can do it. You could, I guess, write it off to better tech, but no, I don't think so. Yes, granted, this guy's skillful, but the top guys in the whole world were not able to do this. Anything like this before. Not anything. I don't think this looks like fake to me. That's all I have to say about that clip. Pufferfish with a raccoon face. I'll have to check that out. Hold on. Let's see what we got. Dog face puffer. Oh, there's a whole bunch of weird puffers now. Dog face. Might be dog face. Let's see if it's dog face puffer. Yeah, okay. Not the weirdest, but definitely not something I knew before. I do sell puffer fish, dried puffer fish, and I've looked them up, and I actually have never seen a non-spiny puffer fish, come to think of it. Oh, look at that. It does look like a dog face. Here's a real fish dog. Let's just make sure that that is not CGI'd or photoshopped or anything. Not much info on it. What's suspicious is this nose thing. I don't see how that would be on a fish. See, this one doesn't have the nose. Weird teeth. Huh. God, there's a bunch of weird ones now. Dog face puffer fish. This fish's head looks like a dog. You know, it doesn't look that doggy to me, but I wouldn't be surprised if it keeps changing since I have not seen this one before. It's probably fairly new. Dollars to donuts, it's going to look more like a dog as time goes on. It doesn't look that doggy yet, but I bet you. Keep an eye on this space. I bet you're going to see some dog. Waiting for a puffer pig. You never know. Just for fun, I like to type stuff in stuff. Just see what happens. Alright, looks like it's still animation. Alright, I'm assuming that's not real. I'm pretty sure that's not real. Okay. So they have, maybe we'll see something like this soon, though. Not seeing the puffer pig yet, but you just never know. It must be fake, the nose one. I think so, too. I think that nose one is fake. I saw the Kettle brand pulled up. Didn't know if you talked about that. Yes, yes. Yes, there's something fishy with the Kettle chips. I agree with you. Google octopus walking on land. I've been watching those for a while. They had one that would hunt on the tide lines by holding its breath. But if I recall correctly, there was a more ridiculous looking one. Yeah, this one could go a long ways on land. Let's take a video, quick shot of it. This might be the one that can walk on land. Let's just see. I think I did cover this one, though. All right, show him walking on the land, guys. Nice cinematography, starting with the shadow. Then you just see the edges. All right, let's see the guy walking. Now, last I checked, they had to hold their breath for this. I'm thinking eventually they'll be able to breathe on air. So, yeah, I mean, I have covered those. They probably have grown more extensively effective. This guy seems to be moving a little better than I recall. I think this is that tide line hunting one, though. He would go from pool to pool. All right. Oh, cool lizard bro. Okay, so you've heard of those dung beetles. Those are about 10 years old. Well, I guess dung beetles also, they don't just roll dung anymore. They roll dead lizards and dead whatever. So, interesting. They are not. Dung beetles are... I've never really heard of a creature that would do both animal and plant material, but this is a dung beetle rolling a dead lizard, basically. And I guess that's what they do in this timeline now. Anyway, definitely new for me. There's a bunch of people on here going, oh, yeah, sometimes they roll other things. How much more does she have? You know what? I'm leaving very soon because my eyes can't stay awake, and I have way more stuff. So I'm going to try to get to the end here. Oh, yeah, I'm going to get to the end of this page. All right, I think that I'm done. I have half a page more. So I got through like 75% of stuff. Not too bad. But I can barely keep my eyes open, so I think it is time for me to check out. I'm going to leave you with that creepy beetle. So, anyways, thanks for coming, guys. There's a new advert on ITV of the Queen song with lyrics. I'm pretty sure they say the trigger. Yeah, it could be. I'm pretty lazy about hunting for residuals. I know how it was, and whether I can find residuals or not is sort of irrelevant for me. Sometimes the residuals will give a clue that I'm more interested in them, or if they're really blatant. But anyways, humans with tails. Yeah, see, for me, it's not an ME, but I think there's a lot more of them in this timeline. And I saw one with a lot bigger tail than I've ever seen before when I looked it up. They used to be just always these tiny little things. And I believe that there was an episode on the X-Files about a dude with a tail, if that was in your timeline. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if it wasn't, but... All right, anyways, I'm going to check out here. So I want to thank you all for coming as usual. You can see my eyes are like barely open anymore. And we will be back next week, barring any unforeseen disasters. And I will see you same time, same place next week. This is Eva signing off for Once Upon a Timeline.